What's ahead for this river? We have a lot of confidence we're going to have less. How much less? Again, that's where the uncertainty really is. That's where it gets tricky. Whatever we should be doing in this part of the world probably should be taking into account less water going into the future. That'll help us a lot if we can figure out how much less water and how much variability we get in it. All right? So there have been a lot of papers on this now, published, peer-reviewed literature, and they've given us a fairly large range of possible decrease in stream flow in Colorado. They range between 5 and 40% down by 2050, assuming a reduced carbon emission scenario. That's a pretty big assumption, considering there's no sign that we want to reduce carbon emissions yet. Right? Nonetheless, that's what hydrologists like to do. That's this thing positively. And they don't like to think about end of century because it looks just too bad. So this is by 2050. All right? And we have a study that we're doing at the University of Arizona with colleagues at the University of Washington, the Bureau of Reclamation, and the University of California, Scripps, San Diego. And we're trying to reconcile these numbers and get better numbers using sort of a common set of assumptions. And it's now looking like the best estimate, rather than this large range, is 10-20% down by 2050. And that actually gives us a fairly large risk if we get this drop. And when you factor in natural variability on top of that, of all the basin storage units, 60 million acre-feet of storage, including Lake Powell and Meade, going dry by 2050. Okay, significant risk, then about 30% risk. Not good. The jury's still out on exactly how much dryness is going to be and what the true exact risk is of having no water reserves. And of course, that's Mother Nature, and our water managers would no doubt act to keep that from happening. They're not going to let us run out of water, but they'll make us use a lot less. Okay? Other things we're going to get, I mentioned this already, more intense precipitation. We're seeing this already in the Southwest and in the United States more generally in the hemisphere. More flooding. We're not seeing too much more flooding. This happening in the United States. Other parts of the world, you seem to be seeing this now. More flooding events. So it might be a matter of time before our infrastructure that has done so well in protecting us from floods gets overwhelmed by this giant sponge that is our atmosphere. Okay? And we should see more drought. And we are seeing more drought. But you still can't say, is the drought we're in now, here in the Southwest, here in Arizona, is that due to humans or is that natural? We can't say. Okay? What we can say is that droughts from here on out, and indeed what made this drought so stressful for vegetation, why we got so much tree mortality and desert plant mortality, is because the drought was unusual in the amount of duration of low precipitation. It was unusual. So as we increase the temperature in the Southwest and the West generally, that will make these droughts more and more severe in terms of water resources and landscape effects. And everybody in the Southwest knows we live in a drought-prone part of the world. And a good rule of thumb is parts of the world that are drought-prone, were drought-prone, will continue to be drought-prone, and will probably, if anything, see more drought. But we can't simulate this drought in all of our models. We can't really say how much more drought. So maybe a good rule of thumb would be, well, let's at least consider the longest records of drought that we have now, and have in the back of our minds that how well would we do if we hit one of these suckers again? What if the drought we're in now, the one that started in the late 90s or early part of this century, depending on where you are and who you are, what if this drought went on for 25 years like it did in the 16th century? What if it went on for 40 or 50 years like it did during the medieval times? Look at this sucker here, over 100 years ago. What would happen if we got one of these droughts along with a lot of warming? Less snow. That's what I would say, scientists like to call no regrets. Target for planting. It could happen naturally, like it did in the past. It could happen due to human changed climate. It could be a combination of those two things. So to conclude, these are the same conclusions I use in all my talks. These are the same conclusions that climate scientists have basically been saying since the 1980s. A lot of comments. Right? We still hear other scientists who are fringe climate scientists, one or two of them, and certainly scientists outside the field that are trying to debunk this, but you don't hear that from climate scientists. Global warming is very real, right? The Earth is warming, and it's unequivocal. There's so many different things happening in a consistent way that there's literally no doubt. Humans are causing this problem. There's little doubt here. We're 90% sure as scientists, scientific community, and there are a number of reasons why we say this with statistical confidence, not just gut feeling or expert opinion. This is based on a lot of peer-reviewed science. More climate change is a sure bet. So we all know how politics in America work. And the globe isn't going to start reducing carbon emissions in a serious way until the United States does. We're the ones who put up the bulk of the emissions, the carbon that's already there. The rest of the world is just going to sit back and wait for us to act. But the rest of the world has a lot of reason to follow us if we decide to initiate that. But certainly, I don't see us signing any treaty unless the rest of the nations in the world do this. So we're going to get a lot more climate change, and we have to figure out how to deal with that. In the Southwest, we have a problem. Climate change is happening. It's pretty serious. In the Southwest, we have an advantage because it's so clear to us now before it is to other parts of the country. We can start to think about this seriously before our other parts of the country do. And fortunately, we're causing the problem. So if we really decide there's some level of warming and other climate change, drying, that we don't really want, that we can't adapt to, well, lucky for us, we can actually turn down the knob, just like we turn down the other thing. Right? I've talked about the Southwest. There are other things that are going to happen in this country that are going to be very costly for us. You can imagine what happens if we get this kind of sea level rise and no more big hurricanes. Who's going to pay for that? Who pays for FEMA? Who pays for the higher insurance rates? Who pays for all those people that are displaced? Think about this on a global scale. Who pays for the military operations that might be necessary to solve the crises that will develop because of climate change like this? You know, we all pay for it. You've got to keep that in mind too. This is the true cost of carbon emissions. And we just have to factor that in. All right. That's my conclusions. I just want to point out two sources of information if you want to continue to learn more about this. One is this great report. I say it's great because I was an author. No, I seriously think it's an update on IPCC. It's more focused on the United States. It was written during the Bush administration, had the approval of the Bush administration. It finally came out in the Obama administration. So you can think of it as a bipartisan report. And it details how climate is going to change. It has been changing and will change in the United States. And it gets down into the regional specifics like I've done here. Right? It's extensively peer-reviewed. The other thing is something we're doing at the University of Arizona with partners around the Southwest, including ASU and Hope. And that is we have the Southwest Climate Change Network. And the idea here is to create a website where we can sort of get away from the ranting and raving that goes on in so much of the web. Just talk about the issues in the Southwest in a non-policy prescriptive way. What's happening? Why is it happening? What can we do about it? What are the choices? It's not here to tell people what to do, it's to get a discussion. And we have a regular blog, and we keep track of other science that's coming out that's relevant to climate change in our region. Talk about the impacts of climate change, the patterns of climate change, the impacts, possible solutions, and you might want to write this down and keep track. It's something that's pretty new, and we want to get it going in a more serious fashion and really turn it into a community that involves not just scientists, but stakeholders, decision makers, and public educators as well. Thank you.